In the lead up to the 15th Brics Summit, the Gauteng Provincial Government hosted a networking session for the Brics buyers. To keep in line with this year's theme, Partnership for Mutually Accelerated Growth, Sustainable Development and Inclusive Multilateralism, the government used this opportunity to outline the inward buyers and investment mission.
The inward buying and investment mission is an activity that's organized by the Department of Trade and Industry as part of the build-up to the Brics Summit. We're having several business forums. So during this Brics Summit, we're focusing on strengthening investment between the different Brics countries and the African continent, as the theme of the summit says. So the focus of this year's summit is the relationship between Brics and the African continent. This investment, inward buying investment mission, is taking place here in Gauteng. In the coming 2 days, we will be in the Eastern Cape, and then we'll do Western Cape and KwaZulu-Natal. So those 4 provinces. So we're going to be taking business people from the different Brics countries to those provinces so that they can link up with other South African businesses. So the focus is on investment. We're trying to attract business people from outside, especially in these Brics countries, to come and invest in South Africa.
What does our current trade landscape look like with the Brics countries, and what's the country's strategy to expand on that footprint?
Let me start by saying that it is clear to us that South Africa's attitude is we must trade with the rest of the world, using the advantage that South Africa has. We're now placing a focus first on the African continent. We think that is the correct approach, that first we must trade with our neighbors and strengthen trade within the African continent. And secondly, with the Brics countries, because this bloc is emerging as a very important trading bloc in the world. You know now that most of the people in the population of the world comes from this bloc of countries. So, and the economies of these countries are growing quite fast. We have always looked at the fast growth of the economy of China. The same thing is happening to the economy of India. So you know that China is today South Africa's largest trading partner. So we want to cement that relationship with China. Over the last few weeks, few days, we have had a lot of engagement with the Chinese business people who are here in South Africa. We held a meeting with the Minister of Commerce and Trade of China to cement the relationship, the trade relationship between South Africa and China. And the most important thing is to ensure that we can change the composition of trade. Because what has been happening in the past is that we have been exporting raw materials to China, and then they export into us finished goods. We've got to change the composition of that trade in quantitative terms, but also to change the quality of the trade. So China and Brazil are going to become very important in this relationship because of the sizes of their populations.
From what I understand, in China obviously is the second largest economy. India is now became the 5th largest economy, and Brazil is the 8th largest global economy. How are we going to incorporate Brics into the African Continental Free Trade Area? Are we facilitating their trade up and down, or are we looking at a way to catapult on this, or leapfrog on this relationship?
We're not discussing yet free trade with these countries. Our priority is let's integrate African trade. Let's finalize the architecture of free trade for the African continent, and then to position the African continent as a 1.2 billion large population, to trade on an equal basis with countries such as China and India because of the sizes of the sizes of their populations. So we're going to first and foremost ensure that we can strengthen intra-Africa trade, and as our next step to ensure that we can, as the African continent, increase trade with these BRICS countries. That's why the focus of this year theme is on the relationship between the African continent and the BRICS bloc.
Not to miss out on this network session, the Gauteng MEC for Economic Development, Tasneem Motara, went into depth with the province's key growth sectors that will be presented to the BRICS buyers.
As a province, Gauteng, we've identified 10 sectors that are doing well and could potentially do much better. So we call them the 10 high growth sectors. They are mining still, because of course Gauteng is still a mining province, manufacturing, the financial services, tourism, the creative industry sector, and then we have the agro-processing, because we're not a farming province or an agriculture province, energy and energy solutions, ICT, and then we have construction, and the last one is tourism. So those are our 10 high growth sectors that we focus on as a province, both for support, provincial government support, looking to redirect municipalities to provide support to those, but also to attract investments into any of those areas. We're on a bold drive to look for co-funders to support initiatives in those areas, so whether it be the tourism sector, whether it be the creative industry sector, manufacturing of both light and heavy goods. Those are our 10 sectors, and then of course I think anchored within those 10 sectors is the special economic zones model. So we've identified, or our drive is to really have a special economic zone per corridor, per development corridor. We have 5 in the province. They are at various stages of either licensing or operations. We have 2 that are fully operational. The first phases being fully committed, tenanted, both looking to the second phases, and that's the Tshwanis Special Economic Zone that houses our automotive sector. Yes, which is, yes, we've got 6 OEMs there, and fully, like I said, fully operational. We're looking at phase 2 now, looking to attract new OEMs, but in the automotive sector. The second is the OR Tambo SEZ, also fully operational, phase 1 committed. We're now looking to expand to phase 2, that's logistics, but also looking at light manufacturing. So light manufacturing would be those that do not need, big industries and that sort of thing. So food processing, we've got one of the biggest, so not one of, in fact, the largest cold storage facility in Africa, and the second in the world, that produces food locally for the likes of Woolworths and internationally in New Zealand, Australia, and hopefully soon in the United Kingdom.
How are you going to use the BRICS Summit as an opportunity to expand Gauteng's footprint? Because as also pointed out, we are one of the largest economy, even if it's just a province, in the whole of Africa. So you are looking at expanding our footprint. How are you going to tie all this together to go from negotiation and attracting investors to applying into practice?
Okay, so 2 things we want to do with the through the BRICS Business Council and the fact that we're hosting BRICS this year, the BRICS Summit, not only as a country but for us as a province. One is to be able to, so what we've done starting from today throughout for the next 7 days we have got South African companies that are in the space of manufacturing, mostly manufacturing that have capacity to export value-added goods. So not raw material. They do a lot of manufacturing already in South Africa. They've either been supported by DTIC, through the Black Industrialist Program, or through any one of our FDIs. And we've built that type of capacity to be able to export products, finished goods, value-added goods to any one of the brick industries. For us, importantly, is to narrow the gap that we have as a trade deficit between ourselves as South Africa and each one of the BRIC countries independently, because there is definitely a trade gap, a deficit, trade deficit. We export a lot of raw product to all of those countries, but they do the value add, and then we import the finished goods. So what we're doing is, so we've identified different sectors. So you have steel manufacturers that produce manufactured goods. We want to be able to introduce them to OEMs as an example. But what the BRIC countries have said and what we've done is look at products that they purchase as imported, products that they export as finished goods, and now our negotiation is about which products can we offset, with the principle of economic cooperation, which are those that they're going to buy as goods value added, fully manufactured in South Africa. So those negotiations do happen, and they happen throughout the course of not only this the summit, but throughout. That's what the Business Council is responsible for doing, and ours is to be able to link those companies. So throughout, starting from today, throughout the sessions, they are dedicated. There's B2B, it's business to business, and it's actual buying and concluding of deals.
Increased trade with the BRICS partners is of importance to furthering the province's economy. Saki Zankaka, acting CEO of the GDDA, outlined their plans to help facilitate investment talks and opportunities during the upcoming days leading up to the BRICS 2023 summit.
As the Gauteng Growth and Development Agency, we've been working with the BRICS Business Council. There are events already we've put together over the next 10 days, but really our main focus is that we want to put business people from the different countries together so that we can improve trade amongst the BRICS countries.
Which key areas are you focusing these investments or the investors towards?
In reality, pretty much any sector, if you look at it, because there's about 10 sectors which have been put as priorities, but what we've seen where there's been a lot of interest has been on infrastructure, energy and agriculture, and we will look and see what can be done within those.
And you're starting tonight with this cocktail evening. How many countries or businesses are you expecting to be here for the next 2 weeks?
Well, I mean, mainly it's the BRICS countries that are here, but there's a lot of countries from the continent that have confirmed that they are coming. The buyers which we had confirming for this event, for example, who are from the BRICS countries, is about 67. So there's quite a number and a variety of businesses that have been here.
And how are you going to tie in your strategy with that of DTIC in our facilitating these agreements or these deals to increase trade and hopefully also increase jobs in the country or specifically Gauteng going forward?
For the entire program, we've been working with the DTIC because BRICS as a summit is a national event. So we've carved out provincial programs that we've been working on with the DTI. So everything that we do, they are involved in, and if there are agreements that need to be renegotiated, they will still be the lead entity. So we effectively have been working with them. Even on the program tonight, they participated. So the DTI is seamlessly part of it.